Okay, so we're going to look at ferry gliding a kayak. This is allowing you to move your kayak from side to side on a river across the current without sort of being washed downstream. It's a very useful maneuver. It allows you to scout the river, to look at the river from what's below, maybe a rapid or something, from different angles. We're going to look at how to ferry glide in the forward direction and in the reverse direction. Forward is used to cross a river just to get to the other side. Reverse is more commonly used ahead of an obstacle that you want to scout or observe, like a rapid. And so you would reverse ferry glide across the river side to side, allowing you to see what's downstream. So the forward ferry is where you're pointing upstream. And to do this, it depends on how strong the current is, but in a moderate current, you would be 45 degrees. So you'd be pointing the nose partly upstream and partly in the direction you want to go. And the result of you paddling forward and the force of the current on your boat brings you directly across the river without losing ground. Okay, if the current becomes stronger as you cross, or if it is stronger, then you want to point further upstream because your paddling won't be as strong as the force of the current on your boat. So you want them to be equal so you go across directly. If the current is less, then you point more across the river since the force of the current is less. So because we're partly sideways to the current, you want to keep your upstream edge raised. We'll talk a lot more about edging in another video, but anytime you're sideways to the current, you want your upstream edge up. In terms of trimming the boat to help with the ferry glide, if you put your weight slightly further back than normal, this makes the front of the boat lighter and less affected by the current. So it helps. There are features called waves in some cases, and they offer a way to cross the river quite easily. So if there were a wave there, you would use that. Look at that. As I said, with a bit of practice, it should be possible to cross the river to the other side without moving downstream at all. Practice in both directions. So, like everything we do, we should practice in both directions. That's from the left of the river to the right and the right to the left. So the reverse ferry glide, very useful maneuver, allows you to look downstream from different angles by crossing from side to side on the river. So to do it, you're pointing downstream with the back of your boat pointing partially towards the target and partially upstream, depending on the current. So you keep your weight forward. This means that the current has less effect on the back of the boat and doesn't float around. If the current's fast, you want to be pointing more upstream. And if the current is less, then you can point more across the river. Because we're sideways to the current, we want to keep our upstream edge raised. It's a general principle. We always would want to do that when we're going across the current. It may be possible to use waves. It's harder in reverse than when you're front gliding, but it is possible. It definitely should be possible not to lose any ground going across the river. And you can move from side to side. So it's often used to inspect a rapid before going through it. By seeing it from various angles helps. So in terms of practicing this, practice it crossing the river in both directions. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to ferry glide over to the other side of the river. So the current is coming in this way, Now we're in an eddy at the moment, a large eddy. This line marks the eddy line. So the faster current is coming down here. So in the shallow current we can point upstream at about 45 degrees. So we're pointing across the river but partially upstream. And by paddling forward, the current will act on this part of the boat, this edge of the boat, and the net result is we should go straight across the river. As we get into the stronger current, we're going to need to point the nose more into the current because the current is stronger, so we will need to paddle against it a bit more so that we still go across straight, and then there'll be an eddy on the far side. So here you can see the force of the current, the angle of the boat to let the current slip underneath the hull of the boat. So I'm raising this edge of the boat so that the water can slip underneath. You can see it's starting to build up there, but by raising that edge, the hull looks like this and the water can slip underneath. So I'm paddling in that direction, but the current is coming in this direction. So the net result is I move in that direction. We'll see this in a video in a minute. So here we are ferrying across to the other side, moving in the right hand direction. We're aiming to move along this orange arrow. The river current is coming towards us. You can see it's building up on this side of my boat. And to counteract that, I lean the boat by raising this edge, as shown in this diagram here, and lets the water, indicated by the blue arrow there, slip underneath the hull. So I always want to raise my upstream edge. So I'm paddling in that direction, and the current is coming in this direction, and those two forces act together to give me a resultant that goes in that direction. So you'll see in the video I move across the water. So out of this current into an eddy, and then depending on how strong the current is, I change my angle. In a stronger current I'll be pointing more upstream, and as I'm in the eddy and so on, there's less current, I'll be pointing more towards the bank. So this is a video of me leaving this large eddy here. The current is coming in this direction, and I'm going to ferry glide across the river to the eddy on the other side. So moving in this low current, pointing quite upstream, coming in at 45 degrees, there's the eddy line there. Coming closer to the stronger current now. See the lean is coming on, so I'm raising this upside edge. The hull looks like that. And if you watch the bank, I'm moving across. Now the current is getting less, so I can ease off. Then it gets a bit stronger again, so I put more of an angle. I'm in the eddy on the far side. So I'm pointing more at the bank because there's a little current in there. Now I'm moving across to where I came from, pointing upstream into the current, edging the boat, this upside edge. Now there's this side to let the current go underneath. Stronger current now, so pointing more upstream, more towards the current. And there, the hull has to be like that to allow the current underneath. And the net result is I'm going across in that direction. So that is how you can move from side to side in the river without being pushed down by the current. So here I'm going to be leaving the eddy to move across to the opposite bank where there's another eddy over here. It's quite a strong current here, there's an eddy line here. As I move into the fast current, I want to raise my upstream edge and have the hull presented like this so that the water can slip under the hull. So by paddling in that direction and having the current coming on this edge here, which I've raised, the net result is I'll move in that direction. So here I'm in the eddy, sharp eddy line, current is here, larger eddy over here. So I wish to move across the river without getting washed backwards. And I'll have to take account of the moving water, raising my edge, and changing my angle as the current strength changes. Out of the slow water into the fast, get the lean on so this edge is up. Paddling out upstream is getting stronger. Now changing to more across the river and moving through the eddy. It's a bit confused. So there's the eddy, and I'm now pointing upstream again, finishing up in the eddy. So this is going to be a faster video, faster water, with rocks in the flow, which means the water speeds up and slows down, and you'll see me change the angle and adjust from side to side. So generally going across the river, obviously the flow is coming in this way. So there's a slower bit, then a faster bit, slower bit. I'm avoiding rocks, but I'm actually not being washed downstream. So I'm moving into an eddy on river left. Now coming back, still without losing much height. So here I just have this hole or ledge behind me, so I go behind it, use the wave to come across. The wave holds me in place, and I haven't really lost much ground. I'm into an eddy now, back on the other side. Now going across again, using the waves, avoiding the hole. Now pointing downstream a bit to join up with the other kayaker, coming into the eddy. Now coming down here, and there's a complex series of rocks here, and this white water. So I go in behind, ferry glide across. There isn't that much force in the white water, and those rocks are behind me, and I'm clear of them. So now I've come across into an eddy over here, where I can see what's happening, and now I'm coming back. So again, moving up, depending on the current, changing the angle of the boat, keeping the upstream edge up into this little eddy behind a rock, and then coming across again. Again, there's a pour over there, a bit of an eddy behind that. Then it gets faster, move across, and I let it turn because I want to go downstream here. And this is like an S turn into another eddy, and there we go. So now I'm moving across where this other kayaker is over here. So again, pointing straight across. That's a bit of an S turn because I just used the current to help bring me across. So really what you're seeing there is a mixture of a few different approaches, but most of it revolves around forward ferry gliding.